As the UK and the other 27 members of the European Union negotiate the UK's departure from the EU, there are concerns about how this will affect the single market. Businesses operating within Europe are assessing the potential impact on trade of goods and services, as well as access to talent and capital. We met business leaders within the UK and EU 27 to discuss their views on the longer-term outlook for their companies and industries and insights on leading their organisations through uncertain times.
The road to Brexit is a challenging one, and despite the UK and the EU 27 giving broad indications of the direction of travel, for European businesses, the final destination is still far from clear.
The scale of the task around separating the UK from the EU is unprecedented. All predictions and forecasts are at best an educated guess. But there are some strategic decision makers that say it's time for business to be bold.
Most of our clients are cross-border and they trade across borders into the EU 27, into the UK, or they trade in the EU, and therefore they're going to have to make changes to their supply chains, changes to their structures, and they're going to have to adapt to the final deal, whatever that is.
What we don't want to happen is to have a bipolar world with, Washington and Beijing sort of in a rather, quite a fraught relationship. What we really need is a tripolar world in which Europe plus the UK are a sort of balance. And that's why I think that we need a strong Europe and we also need a strong UK.
But before some common ground is reached, there's a collective grieving in the business community over the potential loss of certain deeply ingrained single market freedoms around goods, services, people and capital. And here at the London offices of the global law firm Allen & Overy, developing solutions to the challenges of Brexit is top of the agenda.
So you have to go back from that position of unfettered access to the single market and say, well, actually, are there 3, 4, 5 different models in a spectrum that we could think about? And the worst case, of course, is the so-called hard Brexit. And that actually that we could start planning for. My starting point would be to really analyse the supply chains of the business and to say, where are the real impacts likely to be for Brexit? Where are we likely to be hit most? So for some businesses, a significant increase in tariffs is going to be a major issue for them. Others, where they're exporting products into Europe, changes in non-tariff barriers, the imposition of non-tariff barriers, such as licensing requirement, product specialisation requirements and specs, that's going to have a significant impact potentially. So businesses, I'd suggest, should start mapping where the real red flags for them are likely to be in both the near term and the longer term.
For one chief executive, Sir Martin Sorrell, with 3 decades at the helm of the globe's leading advertising and marketing communications group, WPP, it's the free movement of people that he believes will be vital for businesses across Europe to thrive.
Free movement is absolutely critical, and critical to making sure that the product that we provide, the services we provide, are as in tune with modern trends, cultural and social trends, political trends, as possible. If we're not diverse, if we don't draw the creative talent, the media talent, the digital talent that we have from all around the world, including Europe, we will not be as effective and competitive as we should be.
In terms of access to capital, recent research of the syndicated lending market shows that within Europe, UK and European businesses were loaned €360 billion by lenders based across the Channel from where they're headquartered, using English law to underpin the commercial agreements.
Even if a very small proportion of those loans were to be impacted by Brexit, it would have a very significant effect. We've done a couple of very high-profile restructurings where we've asked ourselves the question, what is the right forum for all the stakeholders to do this restructuring? And then we've used the European legislation to manipulate that
and to choose the forum that is best for the creditors as a whole. And our clients have really embraced that, and so I think that will continue post-Brexit.
So as the levels of political noise crescendo around every negotiation plot twist, a business focusing on what it can control is likely to thrive, despite the uncertain soundtrack.
Everyone wants to be ready for day one. And I think what is clear now is that most people are going to just plan to have a day one operation which is compliant and allows them to trade on business as usual. People started off thinking they might sort of produce a fully polished model, but I think people are thinking now that's too difficult and too ambitious, so let's just take this in stages. Businesses are pretty good at getting around problems, so it's a very interesting time for global organisations to think about how they work.